2023 was a big year for video games, but 2024 is shaping up to be just as good, with massive releases from several publishers that could all be go-to contenders. And I, for one, am excited for one thing and one thing only. Let me know in the comments which of the games on this list you're most excited for this year. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is a big hitter coming very early this year. Now, while the Final Fantasy VII Remake was a pretty linear, smaller experience, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is set to be a massive open-world RPG, which the director says his favorite RPG, The Witcher 3, served as a baseline. And if you know anything about me, it's that The Witcher 3 is my favorite RPG as well. So I'm really looking forward to see what Square Enix has cooked up with Rebirth, especially considering I wasn't a huge fan of Final Fantasy VII Remake, but I'm looking forward to seeing how the switch to an open world and that structure really changes the gameplay compared to Remake. But that's not all that will change. Obviously, there'll be some upgraded combat and different party systems. There's also a card game, which is, it's just The Witcher 3 basically, right? Like, it's Gwent, you know what I mean? But this massive open world will have new cities that weren't in the original, plus some additional content that wasn't in the original as well. And this will initially be a PlayStation 5 exclusive. Like Final Fantasy VII Remake did eventually come to PC, but this will only be launching on PS5 on February 29. Dragon's Dogma 2 is launching on the same day as another massive RPG. This long-awaited sequel to the original cult classic will continue the unique combat system found in Dragon's Dogma, with fighting the massive creatures and being able to climb them, and obviously the pawn system for party members. Dragon's Dogma 2 will also introduce new vocations, which are essentially classes, if you don't know from Dragon's Dogma, like the Trickster, which is a support-focused class that only the player can actually be. While Dragon's Dogma 2 is set in a parallel world to the original, you can expect a big world to explore, vocations to mix and match and create your own combos, as well as a deep pawn system so you can choose the party members that come with you and how they interact with the world. I'm very excited for this one. This is probably on the top of my list for 2024. Hopefully by March 22nd, we'll all be done with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth to jump into this next massive open world RPG. But that's not all that's coming on March 22nd. We've also got Rise of the Ronin. This is another big RPG releasing on the same day, which, please, by the way, guys, just delay one of these, like just a couple of weeks or something. Give us a break, right? Like, there's two massive games coming out on the same day. Now, Rise of Ronin may look like Ghost of Tsushima, but it's being developed by Team Ninja, and you can expect the gameplay to be closer to Nioh or Wolong Fallen Dynasty from last year. Now, this is the first open world game that Team Ninja have actually created. It's set in an open world of late 19th century Japan, and it won't be a straight Souls-like like their previous titles. There will be some of those elements blended in, but you can still expect the harder combat systems that Team Ninja are typically notorious for. But even still, this is one that any Ghost of Tsushima fan should be aware of, or anyone looking to jump into this sort of Japan era. And it's not the only game coming out that's set in this sort of ancient Japan, which we'll talk about a little later as well. Star Wars Outlaws is next. Now, this is a multi-location open world across the Outer Rim. Apparently, there will be 4 different planets to explore. Now, this is not your typical Star Wars games. You're not going to be wielding any lightsabers or anything like that. Kay is a thief primarily, so you'll be using stealth and gadgets and Kay's blasters. You also got Nyx, which is her little companion, which you can actually control as well to complement her abilities, like cause distractions or hit buttons from a distance during those stealth elements as well. Now, there is also going to be a faction system with the gangs of the Outer Rim, so you'll have to manage your reputation and build renown with those factions, and I'm hoping that there'll be some interactions between those gangs depending on the ones you choose to side with, and maybe some choice and consequence there, but we will have to wait and see. While we don't have a date for Star Wars Outlaws yet, it is due to launch in 2024, probably in the second half, though it may be in the earlier period, maybe the mid-year, depending on what happens with Ubisoft's schedule, as there is one other big title that they are planning for later in the year as well. This is the big one, the Elden Ring DLC. What is it? I don't know. When's it going to release? I don't know. Will it be good? I don't know. I mean, yes, probably it's going to be good, right? My lukewarm take is that we can absolutely expect to see new locations, new weapons, new bosses, and new quests, most likely centered around Miquella, who is the only demigod from the original game that we didn't actually get to fight in the base game. And the story does feel kind of incomplete, right? Like, there's a ton of hints to Miquella's character in the base game, plus even the promotional art for Shadow of the Erdtree, which is literally the only thing we have right now. does seem to imply Mikola will be involved in what the Shadow of the Erdtree is. Now, I was a pretty firm believer that we were going to get a trailer at the Game Awards, and we sadly didn't, and that was quite upsetting for me. But you know, I originally believed it was going to release in February on the anniversary of Elden Ring, but the fact that we haven't heard anything about it, like no trailer or anything, it leads me to believe that maybe we'll get like a trailer or something around that anniversary, at least an update, and then maybe it will release a little bit later. Because, you know, with Elden Ring releasing originally on the 25th of February, my thoughts were, well, that's when we'll get the DLC this year. But with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth launching a few days later, then you've got Dragon's Dogma 2 in mid-March. I'm hoping FromSoft is thinking about these other major releases and not just going to, you know, dump it one day before Final Fantasy VII Rebirth comes out. Like, that's going to be a hard decision of what games you're going to play, you know, when you've got all these massive games coming out plus the Elden Ring DLC. So I hope there's, you know, maybe April's a good time. You know, just personally, that's what I would like. I know FromSoft doesn't care what I think. But anyway, moving on. Black Myth Wukong, one of the only later releases this year that actually has a date, being August 20th, is Black Myth Wukong. It's a Souls-like set in 16th century with Chinese folklore as its backdrop. Every time I've seen this game, it just looks incredible, from that tight combat system to the unique mechanics surrounding the main character. Black Myth will be a little different to the traditional Souls-likes. Instead, it's more focusing on those boss fights, those like one-on-one boss fight encounters. And if that's what you really like from Souls-likes, there's definitely going to be something here that you will really connect with. But there is still going to be some exploration there with gear to collect and items to find and spells to use, but the boss fights are the key focus for Black Myth Wukong. And this is releasing on August 20th, as mentioned. From Xbox and Obsidian Entertainment comes Avowed. Now, this should be on its way this year as well. This is a fantasy RPG set in the Pillars of Eternity universe, but it won't be a traditional open world, instead focusing on the large open zones, a bit like the Outer Worlds. Strong focus on combat, play, and feel is definitely a key here based on the interviews we've had in the past with the Avowed director. There's going to be a range of weapons just like the Pillars of Eternity CRPGs, like pistols and swords and shields and magic abilities and all that good stuff. Obsidian Entertainment are typically known for their companions and the systems around them, plus the choice and consequences, and that's a clear focus with Avowed that we have seen in the trailers, with the player having two companions following them, and they will definitely be involved in the overall arc of the story. Now, we haven't got a release date for this one. However, Xbox is likely to do another Xbox Direct earlier this year to give you a bit of an update around the timing of things that are coming out this year, a bit like they did last year with Starfield, Redfall, and all those games. So expect to hear a bit more about that in sort of the earlier of this year. Metaphor Fantasia is from the creators of Persona 3, 4, and 5, and it's Atlus's first full-scale fantasy RPG, and it is coming sometime in 2024. Personally, I love Persona, but I also love fantasy, so this is high on my personal list for the year to check out. And with Atlus's typical structure, as you embark on a journey, you've got the time aspects and you forge bonds with your friendships and the turn-based combat. However, in the trailers we've seen, there's like a little bit of action elements to it as well, so it's hard to say exactly what the combat system is going to be in Metaphor Fantasia, but I'm definitely interested to see how this does shake out. It's a very different take on a JRPG from the Atlus crew compared to the Persona game, so really interested to see what this one does. Now, we don't have an official date as yet. Atlus typically release their games sort of in the mid to late part of the year, so you could probably expect it somewhere around there. I'm actually curious, guys, if you want to let me know in the comments if you'd be interested in seeing coverage on this game from me. It's definitely something I'm going to play personally, but we don't typically do these sort of JRPGs on the channel, so I'm curious to know what you guys think. Let me know in the comments. This next one we don't even have a name for, and that's Assassin's Creed Codename Red. Now, this is the game I was hinting at earlier that is set in ancient Japan that will be the next big Assassin's Creed title from the Assassin's Creed Odyssey makers. So this will probably see a big reveal sometime in the middle of the year with a release towards the end of the year. There are rumors of 2 playable characters, but nothing's really confirmed about anything about this game other than the fact that it's going to be set in ancient Japan, and that's really all we have. This is the first Assassin's Creed game to be only next gen, so only PS5 and Xbox Series X. So we should see a pretty solid graphical leap as well compared to Mirage and Valhalla, and maybe some additions there in terms of the structure of the world too, based on the new gen hardware. So I'm curious to see how that does shake out as well. Now, as mentioned, no release date here, but probably late 2024, and personally that's what leads me to believe that Star Wars Outlaws will be sort of mid-year, with this being the end of year target for Ubisoft. The 10th game on this list is potentially a 2024 title, but it's probably going to be 2025. And it really feels like EA and BioWare have to pull the curtains back this year on Dragon Age Dreadwolf and show us what it actually is. It's been 4 years since the original teaser trailer at the Game Awards, and with a new trailer being shown in December, they've promised a full reveal in summer 2024. I personally would expect EA to put an end of 2024 release date on it, and then it's probably going to get delayed to early 2025. That's just my guess. We don't actually know, but hopefully we'll know more soon. I'm low-key sick of BioWare games being announced like years in advance, and they're just giving us these teaser trailers every year at like N7 Day and Dragon Age Day. Like, I'm really excited to see what this actually is, because we've just been teased for so many years, and it's the same that's going to happen with the new Mass Effect as well. And I just want to know what these games are and actually have some specific information about them, which hopefully we will get this year. So it's definitely something to look out for sort of in the summer period this year. And that's not all that's coming this year though. I wanted to touch on a couple of other things that absolutely should be on your radar, and it's all revolves around new hardware here, right? So the first is a new Switch, which is expected to come at the end of 2024 based on reports and leaks and everything. And while we don't have any specific information on it yet, you can expect that Nintendo will have some new exclusive with that, plus updates to say Tears of the Kingdom and the likes to, you know, make use of the new hardware. But I would fully expect, based on the way that Nintendo operate, is that when they release a new piece of hardware, they always have like a flagship new game that goes with it, and then updates to other stuff, and then potentially other new games that will come sort of in rapid succession after that launch, right? If you think about the Switch's launch, we had the 3D Mario, we had Breath of the Wild sort of back to back to go with that launch, and you could fully expect that with the Switch. And there's also supposed to be a new PlayStation as well. The PlayStation Pro is apparently planned for September 2024, but this could definitely be later, and I would sort of expect that PlayStation will tie this with some sort of a release. PlayStation seem to be missing something this year. Now, we did touch on Rise of the Ronin earlier, which is a PlayStation exclusive, and it's being published by them, so they've got that in the early stages of the year, but nothing in the late stages of the year. So it's interesting to see what that will be. There are rumors about a God of War Atreus game. There's also Ghost of Tsushima 2, maybe that Horizon co-op multiplayer thing that's also rumored. A completely hot take based on absolutely nothing except my own opinion is that we will get a God of War something to go with the PlayStation 5 Pro, potentially this rumored Atreus game to show off the new hardware, very similar to what they did with the Spider-Man Miles Morales to show off PlayStation 5. We'll get a God of War Atreus something to show off the PlayStation 5 Pro. That's just my opinion. It's more a hope, I guess, than anything, because I just want more God of War and more Atreus, so we'll see what happens, I suppose. And there's also other things this year as well. Bethesda has some stuff cooking to watch out for. There was, you know, a leak because of the Xbox and Bethesda stuff happening in the year that there's potentially something happening with Doom, like a year zero. Now, we don't know what this is, and potentially even if it's not this, right? We haven't heard anything from id Software since Doom Eternal, so can keep an eye on id Software potentially to see what their next project is. We've also got the Fallout 4 next gen update coming with the Fallout TV show. There's obviously the rumors in that same leak about the Fallout 3 remaster, so that may come out this year to coincide with the TV show as well. And then the Starfield DLC Shattered Space as well, plus other updates to the games, potentially more DLCs, creations, that sort of thing. But we're going to break all that down in its own video. I would also expect something from Borderlands this year with the Borderlands movie coming out in August. There's rumors about a Borderlands 4, so just with the movie happening, you could definitely expect something in the Borderlands space, so just watch that space for that. There's also the Diablo 4 expansion Vessel of Hatred due to come out at the end of 2024, which will introduce a new class, new story, and a new act. And there's other titles throughout the year, right? Stalker 2, Flintlock Siege of Dawn is something I'm very excited for. Nightingale from the ex-BioWare devs is something I'm interested in. Suicide Squad very early this year is something we will check out as well. But let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Thank you guys for watching this video till the end. Thank you to our members for supporting the channel. My name is NorZZa, and I hope you have a great day.